Welcome to this first video on demystifying leadership with Neuro-Semantics. In this video, we'll be exploring the myths surrounding leadership. In the subsequent videos, we'll be exploring what is leadership, the neurosemantics of actualizing self-leadership, 5 essential leadership skills, and we'll summarize them all in the final video. Hi, I'm Mazuki. I help people like you to systematically develop skills in leading, communicating, and coaching to bring out the best in you, in yourselves, and in others. By actualizing that, you can experience an exceptional quality of life filled with happiness, creativity, and fulfillment. Do you want to know how to actualize your leadership potential? Do you want to become more effective as a leader and get results? In the words of John C. Maxwell, everything rises and falls on leadership. The fortunes of nations, societies, and families rise and fall on leadership. Your fortunes rise and fall on your leadership. Leadership is as important to an individual as it is to nations and the world. Why aren't more people actualizing their leadership potential? One of the many reasons is that the myths surrounding leadership confuses and frustrates people from developing their leadership ability. Myths, what are they? Myths are merely thoughts, ideas, or concepts that people believe to be true. Beware of myths. They trap our thinking and abilities. Let's just take on a few myths and explore the truths behind them. Myth: leaders are born, not made. The truth is that leadership is learned, developed, cultivated, nurtured, groomed, and unleashed. Myth: leaders all have certain traits. Truth: leadership is about state, not traits. It encompasses many different traits. Myth: leadership only exists at the top. The truth is that leadership exists at every level. Another myth is that leadership is a rare experience. The truth is that leadership is a common experience and everyone has potential for leadership. Myth: leaders are charismatic. The truth is that leaders are authentic with many different styles. Myth: leadership is about position and status. The truth is that leadership is about functioning, about leading. Myth: leaders control and manipulate people, exercises power over people. The truth is that leaders facilitate and empower. Leaders empower others and share power with others. Another myth is leadership is about you. The truth is that it is not about you. It is about those you lead and the mutual vision. So whenever you come across concepts about leadership, you need to check out whether it is a myth or a truth. So how do you do that? How do you bust a myth? How do you recognize a myth? In Neuro-Semantics and NLP, we have the meta-model of language. That is the model of the structure of language in our mind. And through this meta-model of language, we have the meta-model questions. So when we question concepts or statements using these meta-model questions, it will reveal the truthfulness behind those statements. So some of these meta-model questions is, how do you know? For example, somebody comes up to you and say, leaders know everything. How do you know? Says who? How specifically? When specifically? What are you assuming? So these are some examples of meta-model questions that when statements or concepts or truisms come to you, when you ask these questions, it allows you to explore the extensiveness of that particular statement and where are the boundaries so that you know how true that statement is. Another practice that I apply in my life, whenever I hear statements, I ask the question of if the inverse. Ask if the inverse is true. Asking the question, does it always happen? For example, leaders know everything. Do leaders know everything in all situations? What about an incident that has happened that shows it not to be true? For example, let's take this myth about leaders know everything. I had this wonderful experience many years ago, couple of decades ago, when I was conducting a brainstorming session for an organization, and part of what we were discussing was on how to increase sales in that organization. And being a small organization, the chairperson of the organization and the president decided to engage everyone in the organization, about 40 or 50 of them. So everyone was there. And when we were discussing about what strategies or initiatives that they can take in order to increase sales, they come up with one brilliant solution. And guess what? It did not come from the leader of the organization. It did not come from the chairperson. It did not come from the president. It came from the tea lady. Her work involves making tea for staffs and make sure that everybody is hydrated as they work. And the most brilliant solution came from her. And that revealed to me that leaders don't know everything. So there is one way that you can bust myths. Ask if the inverse is true. So what's the problem with leadership that prevents people from truly learning it? Because it's so important a skill that everyone needs to have. The problem also comes from the language itself. It's called nominalization. A nominalization is a behavior or a verb that became frozen in time when we put a category to it. We put a label to it. We put a noun to it. So the label that we put to this set of behaviors is the label of leadership. The moment we put that label of leadership on this set of behaviors, we lose sight of the original behaviors. And in order to understand what that label means, we then use our imagination as to what it means. So when you hear the word leadership, what is the image that you have about leadership? In my own personal experience, years ago, when I hear the word leadership, I think of positional leadership. I think of a person being a manager, therefore the person is a leader. A person is the CEO, therefore the person is a leader. A person is a political leader. A person is the prime minister or the president, then the person is a leader. Other than that, we are not leaders. So I was stuck in that belief, in that mindset. And since I didn't have a position, therefore, I wasn't a leader. So that was the paradigm that I was stuck in for so many years. So the key to developing leadership is to break it down into behaviors associated with this. Then identify the component skills to perform those behaviors. Next step is to diligently practice each skill to become more and more skillful when performing those behaviors. In the next video, we will be discussing on what is leadership.